Hello, my wonderful student. You're welcome to class today. Okay, today we want to continue from where we stopped the last time on the quadratic equation. The last time we looked at quadratic expression. So, and we were able to solve one or two problems on that quadratic expression. So, okay, so we are going to continue from there today. So, we'll look at one or two questions. Okay, so I want to believe those of you that were at the last class, you actually enjoyed the class. Okay, so we continue today. So, but before we commence the class, I want you to invite your friends, tell them the class has started. And I also want you to get your writing materials ready because today's class is going to be interactive, okay? And don't forget, like I used to say, once you're joining the class, don't forget to always tap the like button. And if you are new on this channel, ensure you subscribe to this channel. Okay, so let's wait for others to join so that we have a good number before we commence the class. Okay, so as you are joining the class, I want you to say hi. Let's see those that are in the class. All right. Okay, so these are the of questions that we are going to be treating today. Okay, so we are going to factorize the following quadratic expressions. Okay, don't forget the last class I told you what a quadratic expression is all about, how you can identify a quadratic expression. Okay, so I told you that a quadratic expression is a mathematical expression which maximum power of variables or the unknown is what? Is 2. Okay, and that with maximum power of the unknown uh, that is 1 is called a linear expression. Okay, so now let us see how do we factorize the following quadratic expressions. Okay, now the first one we have here is r squared plus 26 r plus 168. Yeah, ensure you invite your friends before we commence the class. Make sure you invite your friends, share the links with your friends, let them know the class have started. Let's see how many of us are in the class before we commence. Okay, I think I have a good number here. Okay, you're all welcome. I can see Titilayo here. Okay, and also, okay, that's Adewusi, right? Okay, I can also see Aisha. See, Aisha, you're welcome to class. Uba, you're welcome to class. Yes, Titilayo. Okay, you're welcome to class. All right, so now let us look at the problem here. Now, factorize the following. So we have to factorize this. Now, this is quadratic expression. Now, the first thing is to identify your sum and product. Okay, because what we actually want to do is we want to split this plus 26r. We want to split it into two parts. All right. So, and the procedure is what we want to do now. So we look for the sum and product. Okay, sum and product. sum and products. Okay, in the last class, as I told you that the sum of a quadratic equation of this form is the coefficient of r, coefficient of the unknown with power of 1. Okay, so the coefficient of r here is 26. So that is the sum, 26. And the product is the multiplication of the coefficient of r squared or whatever variable that is here. You multiply it with the number that is independent of the variable. Okay, that is 1 times 169. So, and that's the same thing as 160. Okay, so we have sum and product. So what do we do to this sum and product? Now we need two numbers such that when you multiply the numbers together, you have 169. And when you add the two numbers together, you have 26. So what are the two numbers? Now, you to get the two numbers, you just have to begin to think of factors of the products. Any number you are picking must be factor of the product. So begin to think of factors of the product. Okay, so I want to drop it in the comment section. So if you can tell me the two numbers that when you multiply together, you have 169, and when you add together, you have 26. So it's pretty simple. This one is very simple. So I think every one of you should be able to do that. Okay, so I wanted to drop that. So what are the two numbers that is going to produce a product of 169 and the sum of 26? Yes. Okay, so I need you to drop your answer. This course, you are welcome to class. So what is the answer to my question? Okay. So I need someone to drop an answer before we commence. Is there anyone? Okay, because of our time, all right. I think somebody have dropped an answer, so I do see. I can only see 6 here. Okay, all right. So I'm asking for two numbers such that when you add together, you have 169, and when you sum you multiply together, rather you have 169, and when you add together, you have 26. Okay, because of our time, now let me do that now. The two numbers will be, I can see when you look at this is a perfect square. Don't you think so? Right, so that's 13 times 13. You can see the two numbers. The two numbers are 13 and 13. Now, when you multiply 13 by 13, you have 169. And when you add 13 and 13 together, you have 26. So now, so we turn this plus 26r to r squared plus 13r plus 13r plus 169. I hope you get that. Okay, you can see when you add these two together, you have 26r. Okay, now look for the GCD of these two numbers, two terms. Okay, so what is the GCD? The greatest common divisor, and that is r. So you bring that out. So when you divide r squared by r, you have r. You divide 13r by r, you have 13. The same thing here. The GCD is 13. Okay, so when you divide 13r by 13, you have r. And when you divide this by 13, you have 13. Okay, so here we now have two terms now. This is the first one and this is the second. The common term here is r plus 13. So you have r plus 13. So you are left with r plus 13. So you have r plus 13. And this is the answer to the problem. Hope you get that. So now what I've done is I've factorized this quadratic expression. Now, if you want to check whether your answer is correct, you can expand this. When you expand this, this is what you're going to have back. Okay. Now let's look at the second question here. We have w squared plus 7W minus 18. Okay, so now what is the first thing to look for? You look for the sum and the products. Okay, so now can I ask you now, what is sum, what is product of this quadratic expression? So can you tell me? Drop your answer in the comment section. The sum and products. Okay, so yeah. Now the sum is the coefficient of the variable with a power of 1. That's the sum. Now, and the variable is W. So the coefficient of W is 7. So that means the sum is 7. And what is the product? Product is minus 18. We have 1 times minus 18. So coefficient of W squared, which is 1 times minus 18. That gives you the product. That's minus 18. All right, so now another thing you need to do for me now, we need two numbers such that when you multiply them together you have minus 18, and when you add together you have 7. So what are the two numbers? I want you to think fast and drop your answer in the comment section. What are the two numbers? When you multiply together you have minus 18. When you add together you have 7. Don't forget what I said. Now those numbers must be factor of negative 18. So just begin to think of factors of negative 18. Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, plus or minus 6, plus or minus 9, plus or minus 18. So now see how you can combine two numbers together such that when you multiply together you have minus 18, and when you add together you have 7. So yes, now if you have your answer, you drop in the comment section. Let's see those of us with the answer. Okay, I think I can see, yes, Uber, yes, I can see 9 and 2. Okay, yes, Titilayo, I can see negative 2 and 9. Okay, Marinette, negative 9 and 3. Okay, Riscott, 9 and negative 2. Okay, any other person? All right, okay, so I think with this we can move on. So now I have several answers there. Okay, someone says negative 9 and 2. I can see somebody else with 9 and negative 2. Now let us see which one will work here. Now when you look at these two now, let's first look at the first one. Now look at this negative 9 and 2. So when you add this together, it's going to give you negative 7. You have a debt of 9 and you have 2. So when you pay 2 out of the debt, you'll be left with negative 7. So, and what we have here is not negative 7. So that means these two cannot be divided. Though when you multiply the two together, we have negative 18. So now, but let's look at this. This is plus 9. This negative 2. If I say 2 minus 9 minus 2, that gives you 7, and that's it. So when you add this together, you have 7. When you multiply together, you have a negative 18. So that means the two numbers are 9 and negative 2. So we incorporate it here. So we have W squared plus 9W minus 2W minus 18. Hope you understand the explanation. All right. So now the next thing is to look for the GCD of the first pair. So we have the first pair here. So what is the GCD? The greatest common divisor. So what we have there is what? That should be W. So that should be W. Okay. So now, so we have W, and when you divide this by W, you have W. Now when you divide this by W, you have what? 9. Okay, so now let's look at this second pair. What is the common factor? The common factor is what? Negative 2. So you can bring that out. So when you divide this by negative 2, so you have W. When you divide this by -2, you have plus 9. In most cases, if you are doing the right thing, what we have in the bracket will always be the same thing. Okay, so now so that you factor out what we have in the bracket. Okay, so now you have W plus 9, and you are left with W and -2, so we have W minus 2. And this is going to be the answer to the problem. You get that now? Okay, so now when you expand this, you are expected to have this. Okay, so that is the answer to that. So before I clean the board, now I need to show you how marks are worded. Now suppose you are given this type of question in Waec or in any exam, so how will marks be awarded? Now, so for dividing this into two parts like this, there will be a method mark for that. And for getting the correct answer, we have A1. All right. So now the same thing also applies to this. So M1 for this and A1 for the answer. Okay. So that's how mark will be awarded. Okay. So now let's look at the next problem. Okay. I want to believe you can see the next problem. So before I solve, you can just make an attempt before we solve the problem together. Yeah. Okay, the third one we have 35 minus 12k plus k squared. Okay, so we have to factorize this. You look for the sum and products. The sum and products. Okay, can you tell me what's going to be the sum? What is the sum? What is the product? Okay, so I want to be sure if you can identify that. Yes, what is the sum and what is the product? Yes. What is the sum? What is the product? So drop your answer in the comment section. Yeah, show me that you are welcome to class. Okay. Yeah. Yes. What is the sum and what is the product for that quadratic expression? Once you have your answer, you drop that in the comment section. What is the product? Okay, so I can see rescords. Sum is negative 12 and product is 35. Please ensure you don't follow the crowd. Okay. Okay, show me the sum is 12 and what is the product? So I expect every one of you to drop your answer. Yes, where is Titi Layo? What is your answer to that? Okay, so all right, so because of our time, now the sum, just like I told you, is the coefficient of the variable with a power of 1. So look at it now. K is the variable with power of 1. So that means the coefficient of k is negative 12. That happens to be the sum. So sum is negative 12. So what is product? Product is the coefficient of k squared, which is 1 in this case, times 35. And that is going to give us 35. So the next thing, you know the next question I'm going to ask you. All right, so now you need to provide that now. So what are the two numbers such that when you multiply it together, you have 35, and when you multiply together, you have 35. When you sum together, you have negative 12. So what are the two numbers? Don't forget what I told you. Now those numbers must be factors of the products. That is 35. So what are the two numbers? All right, so if you have that answer, drop it in the comment section. Products of the two numbers such that when they are multiplied together, you have 35. and when summed together, you have negative 12. Okay, good. So now let's look at it. So let me see if anyone have dropped an answer. There's anybody? You have to be fast about it. Okay, I can see 7 and 5. I can see negative 5 and negative 7. Yes. Okay, so all right, I can see negative. Okay, this is Uber, negative 5 and negative 7. Yeah, okay, good. So now let's work with, because I can see the answer among the answers are dropped there. Okay, so we have negative 5 and negative 7. Now, when you look at this, negative 5, negative 7 is going to give you negative 12 when you add together. Okay, so when you multiply together, you have minus times minus is plus, and 5 times 7 is 35. So that means the two numbers are negative 5 and negative 7. So this expression turns to 35 negative 5k negative 7k plus k squared. Okay, so here you look for the GCD of these two terms, the greatest common divisors, and that is what that is 5. So factor out 5. So when you divide this by 5, 35 divided by 5, you have 7 minus k. Okay, so here, what is the common factor? That is negative k. You have to be careful. You can see negative here, so negative k. All right, so you have negative k. Okay, so if I divide this by negative k, I'll let it 7. And when you divide this by negative k, you have negative k. You get that? Okay, so because once I say negative k times 7, I have negative 7k. Negative k times negative k is going to be positive k squared. All right. So, and I told you in most cases, what you have in the brackets must always be the same thing. So as we are doing it, you have to be checking what you have in the bracket here. So that you don't make mistakes. Okay, so now what is the common factor? The common factor here is 7 minus k. So, and you are left with this. So we have 5 minus k. So this is going to be the answer to that problem. Okay, can we look at the last one here? All right, so we have x squared minus 27x plus 50. Okay, so now what is sum and what is products? Okay, we have to be fast about it. So now the sum is what? Negative 27, and the product is 1 times 50, that is 50. What are the two numbers? Such that when you multiply together, you have 50. When added together, you have negative 27. The two numbers should be 2 and 25. Because when you multiply negative 2 times negative 25, you have positive 50. And when you add this and this, you have negative 27. So let's incorporate that here. So we have x squared negative 2x negative 25x plus 50. Okay, so now let's look at the first two pair. Okay, what is the GCD of these two pair? The greatest common divisor. What can go here and can also go here? So, and that is x. So you have x. So when you divide this by x, you have x. When you divide this by x, you have negative 2. Now look at these two expressions. Okay. So what is going to be the greatest common divisors here? So that is negative 25. Okay, so when you divide this by negative 25, you have x. Divide this by negative 25, you have negative 2. Okay, so you can factor out this. So when you factor out, you have x minus 2, and you are left with this, that's x minus 25. So this is going to be the answer to the problem. Okay, so how do we award marks? For splitting this into this, we have M1, and for getting the answer, we have A1. The same thing also applies to this, M1, A1. Okay, so that is how to solve that type of problem. All right, I want to believe you guys are learning. All right, so if you are new in this channel, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And I want every one of you to tap the like button. Make sure you do that. Okay, so and don't always forget, um, I have a lot of series of videos under quadratic equation, so you can always view the ones we've done before, even the one we did yesterday. You can always view that. Okay, so it's going to be helpful. Okay, good. So now let's move down to another set of questions. All right, so this another question. Now you have to factorize 2h squared plus 5h plus 3. Now what is the first thing to do? You have to look for the sum and product. Okay, yes, let's engage ourselves. What is the sum and what is the product? So I want to see how smart we are. What is the sum and what is the product of this quadratic expression? Okay, so don't forget what I said about products. So let's see those that will give us the correct answer here. What is the sum and what is the product of what we have there? Yeah. Okay. The sum and product of 2h squared plus 5h plus 3. Yes. Is anyone dropping the answer to that? The sum and product. Okay. Yeah. All right. So while you are trying to figure that out, okay, I can only see show me the product is 3. Okay. All right. So now let me do this. So we see how we're going to do the next one. Now the sum is the coefficient of h. Coefficient of h, that is plus 5. So the sum is plus 5. Okay. And what is the product? The product is not 3. Look at it. Coefficient of h square here is 2. So use whatever you have here to multiply this number here. So that's going to be 2 times 3. And that gives you what? 6. All right. So now two numbers such that when you multiply together, you have 6. And when you add together, you have 5. What are the two numbers? The two numbers will be what? I know you know, that's 2 and 3. Okay, so that means this quadratic expression turns to 2h squared plus 2h plus 3h. You will see 2h plus 3h is the same thing as 5h. Get that now? Plus 3. Alright, so now we find the GCD of this expression here. So what's the GCD? That's 2h. 2h is the GCD. So when you divide this one by 2h, you have what? You have h left. Divide this by 2h, you have 1. Okay, here, what's the GCD here? That's 3 plus 3. So you have plus 3. Okay, divide this by 3, you have h. Divide 3 by 3, you have 1. Okay, you can see what we have in the bracket is the same. So we factor out h plus 1. So we have h plus 1. You're left with 2h plus 3. Okay, so we have 2h plus 3. Okay, so this is going to be the answer to the problem. All right? I hope you get that. Okay, so now let's look at the next question. So we have 10k squared minus 41k minus 45. So how do we factorize this? What is the sum and what is the product? Okay, by now I think every one of you now should be able to give me the correct answer to this, the sum and the product. So you have to be fast about it so that we'll be able to cover a lot of things. Okay, so what is the sum and what is the product? Okay, so yes, drop your answer in the comment section, the sum and products. So you must be able to identify all of these things before you're able to factorize a quadratic expression. Okay, what is the sum and what is the product of 10k square minus 14k minus 45? Yes. Okay, Mayowa, you're welcome to class. All right, okay. I need you to give me the sum and product. Okay, show me there I've dropped an answer. So that is just sum. Yes, what of the products? Fayomi, you're welcome to class. Okay. All right, can you attend to that question? Okay, Riscott, I've dropped an answer, sum and product. Okay, so I want it that way. So you give me the sum and product. So sum is negative 14, 41, and the product is 45. Okay, so Riscott. Okay, Riscott, are you changing your answer? Okay, I can see your product now. Okay, so Titilayo. Okay, sum is negative 41. And product is negative 450. Yes, others should drop the answer. Make sure you are doing something, and that's the best way to improve. Okay, so once you are given an activities to do, make sure you do it. It will help you to improve. Okay, so let's see. Now to get the sum, that one is very easy. The sum is the coefficient of k, and that is negative what? Negative 41. So what is the product? Just like we did this, you use the coefficient of the variable square, okay, to multiply this number that is dependent of the variable. So that's 2 times 3. We have 6. So here in this case, you use this to multiply this. So that's 10 times negative 45. That is negative 450. Okay, that's a big number. All right, so now we need two numbers such that when you multiply together, you have negative 450. When you add together, you have negative 41. So if I want to do this, you see the best way to do it to make the work easier, because this number looks big. So I'll just begin to think of 45, not 450 as a whole. I'll look at it now. What will give me 45? I know probably maybe 9 times 5 will give me 45. Okay, so and I can see my sum here. Okay, so I'm looking at it now to get 450. Now, either I have 90 times 5, or I have 9 times 50. Okay, so we just put 0 since we are skipping. You skip 0 here, so put 0 here or here. So when you use this to multiply this, you have 450. So now, but what we have here is negative 450. So you can do it this way. Let's say I have negative 90 and 5. I think this one I've done the work for me now. Okay, so I can just keep this. Look at it. Negative 90 and 5. So because when I use negative 90 to multiply 5, I have negative 450. So when I add together, okay, no, sorry, this one will not work. As you can see now, so we are supposed to use 9 and negative 50. I think this one is going to be the answer. You can see now. So once you are check, you must check to be sure of the answer. You can see by the time we add together, we are not getting negative 41. So that means it's not the answer. So this is going to be the answer now. So when you multiply this by this, you have negative 450. So and you add together, you have what? Negative 41. Okay, I want to believe you understand that. Okay, so now we now incorporate this into this expression. So we have 10k squared minus, or let's start with plus 9k minus 50k minus 45. I hope you understand that. So when you join these two together, it's going to give you negative 41k. Good. So now let's look at this. What is the GCD here? That is k. So now let's write the k out. When you divide this by k, you have 10k. Now divide 9k by k, you have 9. All right, now let's look at this one now. What is the GCD here? So that's going to give you what? Negative 5. Negative 5. So, okay, so when you divide negative 50k by negative 5, so you have 10k. And then you divide this by negative 5, so you have 9 plus 9. Okay, you can see what we have in the brackets. It's the same thing. So then you now have 10k plus 9 when you factor out this. So you are left with k minus 5. So you have k minus 5. So, and this may be the answer to the problem. Okay, so now as usual, so our word marks. So for writing this, we have M1. And for getting the answer, we have A1. Now for splitting this into 2, we have M1. And for getting the answer, we have A1. So it's as simple as what we have on the board. Okay, so now let's move down to the next one. Okay, the last question. I hope you guys will not be afraid. We have 16 h to the power of 3 plus 16 h to the power of 2 plus 4h. Okay, look at this question. Okay, I know many of you will be scared that, okay, how do you do this? All right, so it's not something hard. Okay, if you have an idea in your mind, I'm going to do it now so you can confirm maybe what you have in your mind is the same thing with the method I'm going to use to solve this. Now, looking at this, using quadratic equation may be a little bit difficult, okay? So, because this is not a quadratic expression. So this is a cubic expression. So I will try and make it to be a quadratic expression. I will factor out a quadratic expression out of it. So now what I'm going to do now is that first look for the GCD of these three terms, because as you can see now, they have something in common. So the GCD here, here, and here is 4-ish, right? 4-ish can go here, 4-ish can go here, 4-ish can go here. So let me factor out 4-ish. So I have 4-ish. Okay, now, so when you divide this one by 4-ish, you'll be left with what? 4-ish squared. Okay, I hope you agree with me. Divide this one by 4-ish, you have plus 4-ish. Divide this one by 4-ish, you have what? 1. Okay, can you see now? So it's as easy as what we just did here now. So now you can see what we have in the bracket now. It's a quadratic expression. So All you just need to do, just factorize what you have inside, and that's all. You can see. All right, so now how do we do this? So now what we have in the brackets, let's look for the sum and products. Sum, products. So now sum is what? Plus 4. And what is product? Product is also what? Plus 4. I think so. Now you use this to multiply this. Okay, so now can you tell me what are the two numbers such that when you multiply together you have 4, and when you sum together you have 4? Okay, so what are those two numbers? Okay, yes, I need you to drop that in the comment section. So the two numbers such that when you add together you have 4, and when you multiply the two numbers together you also have 4. So I think that's very simple. Everybody should be able to get that now. It's not something hard. So we have 2 and 2, right? Okay. So when you add these two together, you have 4. When you multiply together, you have 4. So now this expression in the bracket turns to 4h squared plus 2h plus 2h plus 1. Okay, so now we have 4h. Now look at what we have here. Look at the first pair. Now the GCD here is going to be 2h. Is that not? So that's 2h. So now when you divide this one by 2h, what do you have? You have 2h. When you divide this by 2h, you have 1. Okay, so now let's look at the second pair. So the GCD here is 1. You have plus 1. So when you divide this one by 1, so you have just 2h plus 1. So, okay, now in the brackets, the common factor here is what? 2h plus 1. Okay, so you can bring that out. So let me bring that out now. 2h plus 1. And then you are left with what? 2h plus 1. 2h plus 1. So this is the answer to the problem. Can you see that now? All right. So if you expand this, we have this one back. So you can confirm that later. So how do we award marks to this? Now, for finding the GCD of this quadratic, of this cubic expression, we have M1. Now, for solving, splitting this into 2, we have M1. And for getting the correct answer, we have A1. All right, so 3 marks all together. Okay, so that is how to solve that problem. All right, so we are moving to the next question. So if you are just joining this platform for the first time, ensure you subscribe to this channel and don't forget to tap the like button. Thank you for doing that. Okay, now another question here. Okay, now let's look at the first question here. So we have 3m squared n minus 30 mn plus 75n, right? How do we solve this problem? Now, the first thing is to look at the expression we have here. There's something that is common to these three terms. What are the things that are common? What is the GCD of these three terms? Can you tell me? That's going to be 3. Okay, 3 is 3n. 3 is common and n is also common. So let's bring that out. We have 3n. So we now have n squared. Okay, when you divide this by 3n, you have m squared. So minus. And what do you have left here? You have 10m. Okay, so when this one is divided by 3n, so you have plus 25. You get that? Now let's see when you open the bracket, 3n times m squared. So you have this, and 3m times negative 30m. So you have 30mn, and 3n times 27. So this is what you have. Okay, so now we just need to factorize what we have inside here. So we have 3n. Now you look for the sum and product. So what is the sum and what is the product? Now the sum is what? Negative 10, and the product is what? 25. So we look for two numbers such that when you multiply together, you have 25, and when you add together, you have negative, what do you have there? Negative 10. Okay, so what are the two numbers? Now, those numbers must be factors of this. So the two numbers are negative 5 and negative 5. You can see, if I say negative 5 times negative 5, I have positive 25. And when you add together, you have plus negative 10. Okay, so that means this turns to m squared minus 5m minus 5m plus 25. Okay, you get that? So you have 3n. Now, what is the GCD of these two terms? The greatest common divisor. That's m. So you can factor that out. So when you divide this by m, you have m. Divide this by m, you have 5. Okay, what of this? You have negative 5. So when you divide this by negative 5, you have m. Divide this by negative 5, you have negative 5. Okay, so here your final answer is going to be 3n. So the common term here, you can factor out this out. So you have what? You have m minus 5. You are left with m and negative 5. So you have m minus 5. And of course, now you can still write it this way, m minus 5 squared. So the same thing, because this and this are the same thing. Okay, so that is the answer. So how do we award marks to this? Okay, so for finding the GCD, we have M1. For splitting my negative 10M into this, we have M1. And for getting the answer, either this or this, any of the two, we have A1. So 3 marks altogether. Hope you get that. All right, so now let's move down to the next one. So how do we solve the next one? Can I give you some time to try the next one? Let's see. What can you do? Let me just give you like 2 minutes. If you can get the answer, just make an attempt. 12m squared minus 4mn minus 5m n squared. Okay, can you try this? This question looks like the one we just did there. It looks like it, but you have to be careful. So, can you try this? Let me just give you a minute and let's see what you can do. I just want you to try something. So after a minute, I'll start solving the problem. Okay, I just wanted to make an attempt. Okay, now let's see why you are doing it. Let's see how you expected to do it, so you can just compare with what you have in your notes. So now looking at this, I will check if I can find a GCD. Now when you look at it now, there's no GCD for these three terms, so that means I may not be able to do it the way I did the first one. Okay, so now the next thing to do here is to search for the sum and products. Sum and products. Now the sum in this case is the coefficient of mn, like the ones we have been doing before, which is just only one variable. This time around now we have two variables. So the coefficient of this now, because this one has a power of 1, power of 1. Okay, so the coefficient of it is going to be -4, and that is the sum. Now, what is now going to be the product? The product is going to be the multiplication of this and this. So use 12 to multiply -5. And that gives you what? That's -60, right? Okay, so from here, you now begin to think of two numbers such that when you multiply together, you have this. And when you add together, you have that. I told you those numbers must be factors of the products. So why don't you think of -10 and 6? So when you multiply this and this together, I think you have -60, right? So when you add together, do you have this? Okay, good. So that means this is what you're going to use. So now this one turns to, don't forget, this is what you want to split into 2, and not this, not this. So we have 12m squared -10mn plus 6mn -5n squared. Okay, I hope you get that, because when you join this and this together, you have -mn. Okay, so now what is the GCD of these two terms? What is the GCD of these two terms? The greatest common divisors. So when you look at it, you will see that 2 can go here, 2 can also go here, m can go here, m can go here. So that's going to be what? 2m. That is 2m. So when you divide this one by 2m, that is what? 6m. Okay, so now when you divide this by 2n, you have -5n. You get that now? Okay, you can see once you open the brackets, you have this back. Okay, what is the GCD here? The GCD here is n. You have n plus n. When you divide 6mn by n, you have 6m. Divide this by n, you have -5n. You get that? Okay, so we say that what we have in the brackets are now the same thing. So you can factor out this. So now you have 6m minus 5n. Now you are left with these two. So we have 2m plus n. And that is going to be the answer to the problem. Can you see that now? Okay, so that's how to solve that problem. All right. So you have m1 for this and a1 for the answer. So that is how to solve that problem. Okay, can we move down to the next one? Question 3. So we have a squared b squared minus ab minus 30. All right, so here, what is the sum and what is the product? Okay, now the sum and the product. So what is going to be the sum and what is going to be the product? Okay, can you drop that in the comment section and let's engage ourselves now. So what is going to be the sum and what is going to be the product? Can you drop that? Can you drop that? What is going to be the sum? What is going to be the product? So we should be able to do that. So the sum is what? The coefficient of AB. So that's -1. While the product is coefficient of the variable square times C. That's negative what? 30. So now we need two numbers such that when you multiply together, you have -30, and when added together, you have this. So what are the two numbers? So we have, let's say, -6 and 5, okay? Yeah, because 5 times 6 is 30. All right, so that's what we have. So now we split this into two. So we have a square, b square, -6 ab. Can you see that? Because I'm splitting this one, so it must be in terms of ab. You get that? Plus 5ab. Right, so -6ab plus 5ab is going to give me -ab. Okay, so and the last one, -30. So now let's look for the GCD here. What's the GCD here? That's AB. AB can go here. AB can also go here. Okay, so we have AB. So when you divide this one by AB, you have AB minus 6. Okay, the common factor here is 5 plus 5. When you divide this by 5, you have AB. Divide this by 5, you have -6. Okay? Yeah. So now, what is the common factor here? It's going to be AB minus 6. So let's factor AB minus 6. So you have AB minus 6, and you are left with this. So that is AB plus 5. Yes. So this is going to be the answer to the problem. All right. So I hope you understand that. Okay. So for writing this, we have M1, and for getting the answer, we have A1. All right. So that is how marks will be awarded to this question. Okay. So now let's move down to the next thing. Let's move down to the next thing. Okay. Okay. So now question 4. We have t squared minus 4. Now to factorize this, I'm going to be making use of principle of difference of two squares. Now, if you have x squared minus y squared, the answer is x minus y, x plus y. Okay. So once we have subtraction of two squares, so these are so you have x minus y, x plus y. So I'm going to express this as t squared minus 2 squared. You understand now? Because this is the same thing as 4. So that means the result is going to be t minus 2, t plus 2. So that's all. So that's the answer to that. All right. Okay. So now let's look at the next one. So we have x plus 4 raised to the power of 2 minus 9. So once I see subtraction here, what comes to mind is that, okay, can I express this one as difference of two squares so that they are going to look like this? Yes, this is a perfect square. Fine. So this now turns to x plus 4 raised to the power of 2 minus 3 square. So don't expand this. Don't expand this. So after doing that, now it now looks like this. So I'll just pick this and this. I will add and subtract. So the first thing is to subtract this minus this. So I have x plus 4 minus 3. Okay, what we have here, just like your x here, and this one like your y. So we subtract. And the next one, x plus y plus 3. Okay, so that gives us what? So that's x plus 1. Okay, 4 minus 3 is 1. So, and that's x plus 7. This is what you have. So that's the smart way of solving it. So some students may just go ahead and expand. After expanding, you have one quadratic expression. After that, you now factorize again. That's going to be stressful. Okay, so now let's look at the last question. Let's look at the last question. Okay, before I leave, let me show you how marks will be awarded. For writing in this, we will have M1, getting the answer A1, here, M1, and the A1. Okay, so that's how marks will be awarded. So let's look at the last one for today. So we have 16 minus 1 over 2r plus r squared. Okay, look at this question. I'm very sure this question looks scary and it looks as if it's hard. Okay, fine. So all you just need to know is the method to solve. So once you understand the method to solve, you see that it's very easy. Okay. So now what I want to do now is, let me try and find the GCD. I'm going to bring out a GCD, and that GCD now, because I don't want fraction. If I don't want fraction, I have to find a way of just, bringing out something. So there are several ways we can do that. So if I decide to factor out 16, or let's say 16, let's see, if we do that, we have, let's say we bring out 16 here, and we have 16. So we have 16, this is going to give us what? What is it going to give us when you factor out 16? All right, so we have 1 plus, because when you multiply this by 1, okay. Now let's use this method. This one is going to be easier. So now this can be written as 1 over 2 raised to the power of 4. It's possible for me to write it this way. So, but let's get the sum and product. Let's follow the normal routine so that we are not going to mix things up. So what is the sum here? The sum is plus 2. Sum is minus 1 over 2. And the product is going to be what? 1 over 16. Let's just skip this one. Let's skip this. So now, I will look for two numbers such that when I multiply together, I'm going to have plus 1 over 16. And when I add together, I'm going to have 1 over 2. Do you understand now? So now, what are those numbers? So let me begin to think of factors of this. So I look at it. If I have minus 1 over 4 and minus 1 over 4, I think this one is going to work out. So if I have minus 1 over 4 times minus 1 over 4, I'm going to have 1 over 16. Okay, is that making sense? Okay, so now when you add minus 1 over 4 and minus 1 over 4 together, it's going to give you minus half. Do you agree with that? Because this quarter plus quarter is going to give you half. So, and if it is negative quarter plus negative quarter, it's going to give you negative half. You get that now? Okay, so let's work with that. So that means this turns to 1 over 16 minus 1 over 4r minus 1 over 4r plus r squared. Okay, so are we making sense? Okay, good. So now you factor out what is common. Now the common factor is 1 over 4. 1 over 4 can go here, 1 over 4 can go here. That's going to be the GCD. Okay, so let me factor that out. I have 1 over 4. So, and this is going to give us 1 over 4. Because when I say 1 over 4 times 1 over 4, I have 1 over 16. So that's minus r. I hope you get that. Fine. So now, what is common here? The common factor here is negative r. Negative r. So I have negative r. So now when you divide this one by negative r, I have 1 over 4. When you divide this one by negative r, you have negative r. Okay. Now let us see maybe what we have here is correct. So when you use negative r to multiply 1 over 4, you have negative 1 over 4r. When you use negative r to multiply negative r, you have r squared plus r squared. Okay. Yeah. Fine. So now look at what we have here now. This is common. So you bring this one out, 1 over r, 1 over 4 minus r. You are left with this 1 over 4 minus r. Okay, so this is going to be the answer to the problem. Okay, so that is the answer to the problem. So I want to believe you can find this very easy. You find it very easy. It's just the same procedure. Just the same procedure. You can just now look at it. The sum and the product, multiply them together. That's minus 1 over 4 and minus 1 over 4. So, and that is what we have here. Okay, so I just follow the steps. All right, so how do we award marks to this? For writing in this way, we have M1, and for getting the correct answer, we have A1. So I want to believe you guys enjoy today's class. So I want to stop here. Okay, so it's a good time for us to stop. So I'm still going to advise you today. Ensure that you practice something. As you are practicing, you are becoming better. Okay, so don't relent, keep on practicing. As you continue doing it, you become a guru in mathematics. Okay, so thank you very much. I want to appreciate every one of you being in the class. So you have done well, and I want to remind you, if you have not tapped the like button, ensure you do that. And if you are new on this channel, ensure that you subscribe to this channel. Thank you very much. I love you guys. Bye bye.